All right, welcome to the Rich CELENZA, or CELENZA show for that matter. Either way, just depends on how you want to pronounce my last name. WTF are you talking about? I was watching some videos on Ronnie Coleman, Dorian, Flex Wheeler, and Ric Flair, and all these dudes. They're awesome. I love those guys. Grew up watching them. Ric Flair may be the funniest person I've ever seen in my life. He's immortal. I mean, he's just unbelievable. And Flex Wheeler, I was listening to an interview with him and about his health, and then we went into a video I was watching on Ronnie Coleman. And if you ever get a chance to watch London Real, there's some interviews with Dorian Yates, and they even did like a short film or like a documentary on Dorian now, which is crazy to see a lot of my favorite bodybuilders, how big they were. And what type of shape they're in now. And a lot of them still look great, but you know, compared to where they were at, it's kind of amazing, the transformation. And I know I went from, you know, I used to be around 247 pounds. The closest I ever got was 250, and I always held between 230 and 240 for many, many years. Now I'm about 195, 200. I look at pictures of myself when I was a lot bigger. It's kind of mind-blowing that I even looked like that. And I got pretty big for my, and I never took juice or anything, but the one thing that kind of came up was, can you power lift and bodybuild at the same time? They were talking about that with Ronnie Coleman, and that is what he claims gave him the physique that he had, which I can relate to wholeheartedly, especially considering I'm going on 50, so years ago, for the most part, there was more free weight driven, dumbbells, things in that nature, simple movements that I think gave us a lot of size. We weren't caught up in the equipment like now. But as far as comparing the two, so I was fortunate enough to work out with a lot of power lifters, especially when I moved to Florida and saw them in California. And I traveled out throughout the United States, so I also would see a lot of famous people working out in Florida in the gyms too. Obviously famous bodybuilders, wrestlers, and the different types of workouts they did. That's where I learned so many things from those guys. And I'm always going to different gyms. I was always a member of two different style gyms, so I was always kind of a member of a Worlds and a Golds. And Florida in its heyday, especially the 80s, and I'd even go to California. I mean, that's where the bodybuilding, it was huge. And so was the wrestling circuit. Was huge in South Florida, the schools, and in Georgia they had their own regional thing going on here. Chicago didn't seem as big with that. Chicago was really big, at least Wisconsin, those places with arm wrestling. But bodybuilding wasn't that big. Ohio, you know, Arnold obviously started to have his event there, which kind of was a little bit of a game changer in the Midwest. But I think for the most part, Florida was very dominant. Obviously, the West Coast was the most dominant, and the East Coast did its thing with bodybuilding and powerlifting. But I had and I've seen so many of those dudes I've seen Dorian work out. I've seen all these dudes. I mean, even the wrestlers, Macho Man, all of them, even Eddie Robinson, and, you know, those Mike Quinn, and kind of old school guys that were massive. And then they had the Mr. Olympian, what was it, 1990 at the Dolphin Hotel, or was it the Swan? And I was fortunate to check that out and got to see all those guys again. Been to the Lee Haney gym in Georgia, and just seen tons of different guys. But here's the thing. So regarding me, as far as powerlifting and bodybuilding, I burnt my stomach as a young boy. I pulled hot curling irons on my stomach, so I have a huge scar on my stomach that my mother still cries about. It's hysterical. But she was in the bathroom, and in the old days you'd have hot curlers, and then it had hot water underneath, and it would steam the curlers, and then they would put the rollers or the curlers in their hair, or whatever you want to call them. So I pulled the cord and it splashed. I mean, luckily it missed my face, but it hit my whole stomach. So I don't know what degree. I was a baby, so I don't know how degree, but it's still scarred. So I never knew, I never thought I'd become a bodybuilder because I had a scar there. Even when I had a six-pack, it kind of looked distorted. It actually looked worse when I had a six-pack to a certain degree with the scar. It made it look even more shredded. But I had that for many, many years till I got bigger. Throughout high school and all that, I was really shredded. But I always knew I wasn't going to compete And I was never interested in dieting. I wrestled so many years that I was just exhausted from dieting, and I felt tired a lot of times. And I said, after I graduated high school, I was playing so many sports, I said, I just want to concentrate on getting big and eating. Because I was always small, but I was always one of the strongest guys. So I was like 138 pounds. I graduated high school. And then all of a sudden I turned 19 years old, and I went from 138 to 210, and I grew 4 inches, which I know that's a real late bloomer. But I think one of the reasons was, one, I wasn't sleeping enough, and two, I wasn't eating enough consistently. I thought I was just going to be a small little kind of runt guy, because for the most part I was only 5'6", 5'5", 5'6", for most of my life, and I was always very thin. I think my junior in high school I wrestled 119 pounds, which is crazy to be, if you fast forward in your life like a year and a half, 2 years later, I'm 100 pounds heavier. Now, I graduated high school earlier. I went back to high school, and people obviously all thought I was on steroids, because I graduated high school. I come back there the following 8-9 months, and all of a sudden I'm bigger than everyone practically, and I really started to get very strong. I was probably the strongest bench presser in high school, and then I went on to start squatting heavy and doing all this crazy shit. Not steroids or anything, just was obsessed with working out with heavy weights. So I started incorporating like bodybuilding workouts. So obviously I'd read Flex Magazine, Muscle and Fitness, and watch some ESPN, because back then they would show bodybuilding, but I think it got voted the most boring sport in the world, which was funny because darts was also the most boring sport in the world. And what was funny is, me and my dad collected money. We had dart games out there. So the two things I was involved with, vending, which was darts, and gaming, and I loved bodybuilding and powerlifting, were the two things I was involved with. So I used to say maybe I'm the most boringest, person on the face of the earth. But anyways, I believe that for, if you're going to be if you're going to train to do shows, and again, I've never professionally done a show, and I was never interested, but I've been around tons of guys who have, and I've been around a lot of guys, obviously, who powerlifted as well. I think for you to truly get the size that you need, you should incorporate a lot of powerlifting movements into your workouts, even old school shit. And I'm not just talking, you have general shit, but bench press and things of that nature, but deadlifting and obviously squatting. Really concentrate on, I think squatting is just really the foundation of everything. And I think deadlifting, but my back now as I got older is kind of trashed a little bit, my tendons and joints. So if you are going to start incorporating powerlifting and bodybuilding into it, look at the future and what you're doing to your body. I really didn't. I really thought I was kind of indestructible, and it has taken a toll on me. Thank God I started losing weight when I did, where I didn't totally destroy my skin, but I also started to back up a little on the weights. And Father Time, no one's going to beat it. It just slowly my weight started to go down, and I still lift kind of heavy weights, I guess, for my age. I'm still hitting like 225 for 10 times, but my legs is where I'm really kind of in bad shape. I don't go over 185 squatting, but I go deep. But I used to go up to 500 pounds for reps deep. Even without reps, I go up to 1,500 pounds squatting or leg press. I loved all that crazy shit, but it definitely took a toll on me. And just be very careful if you are going to incorporate bodybuilding and powerlifting into your workouts, that you do it safely. Most of my friends that are hardcore lifters like I were, they either took too much juice, steroids, or what happened to them is they are damaged, especially their back. I would say more than anything. A lot of us have tore up shoulders. Obviously, I had a rotator cuff in my early 20s rip out playing football like an asshole. I was never really the same after that. But really, working out is all about safety, and it's about health. To take it and turn it into something where it destroys you is one thing I think I need to discuss, because I think what happens is, a lot of times, if you suffering through workouts, or getting that sore the next few days, and that's the only you get these rushes out of that, or lifting more weights than anybody in the gym, or being competitive, that's wonderful to a certain degree, but make sure, again, you're getting the proper rest, nutrition, because it takes one bad day in the gym. It can even take one movement, and it all goes wrong. And you physically may never be the same, even when you're working out. Squatting, I've had a lot of injuries where, it's just I've been set back months. But the one thing I would tell people is I never stopped working out. The only time I did was for a year, and I still would try to get to the gym, but my daughter had a liver transplant. So I ended up spending a majority of the first couple of years in and out of hospitals with her continuously. I even lived in hospital for months at a time. So I didn't have the freedom to go to the gym. And that was the time I really lost weight. I went from like 247, and I think at one time I dropped down that was the thinnest I was for a long time, like maybe 192 pounds or something. 199 pounds, I can't even remember, but my clothes they all thought I was sick. I had my pants, because I was like a 36, 37, I may have been a 38 at times, but now I'm a 32. My pants were falling, my shirts were all 3 or 4 X's, some of them. They were just, I looked sickly. But I wasn't eating, that was the thing, and I wasn't sleeping in the hospital too often, so it all kind of just went sideways on me. But for the most part, if I hurt my knees, or if I tore something, or my rotator cuff, for instance, I never stopped working out my other body parts. So, for instance, when I did tear my rotator cuff, I obviously just kept doing legs, and I kept doing it with my left, so I kept working out. I'd curl to my right, I'd bench press with a dumbbell, I just never stopped. Shoulder presses, and of course, that part of my body, my right side of my body, was so much stronger than my left, but I did not want my entire body to just be like, hey, we're done now, we're injured, we're not going to have any blood flow, and the whole body's got to kind of fall apart. I think by doing this, once I did start to recover, I used my other side of the body, so in this case my shoulder, to catch up to the other side. Did it ever catch up entirely? Of course not. It was damaged it's pretty bad. But at least I kept pushing myself, and once got in a real, not long ago, 6 years ago, I was doing some in San Diego. I lived out there at the time, and I flipped over my cousin's handlebars on the mountain biking, and I cracked a few ribs. I didn't know it. I just knocked out I was wiped out. I was rocked. I heard the 3 crunches. I don't know if I snapped my neck. I was looking up, but I guess I went head over heels. I did that once on a motorcycle, too, when I was younger. I cracked my collarbone. But I came to it, and it was later in the day. I didn't want to go to the emergency room and sit through all that shit. So he said my chiropractor's right around the corner, but I couldn't even stand up. Went to the chiropractor. To make a long story short, he's like, dude, I think you broke a few ribs. And then we're like, should we go to the hospital? He's like, there's not much they're going to be able to do for you right now. They're just going to wrap you up the way I'm wrapping you up. Okay. He said, please, just come back Monday. Let's see. We'll take it from there. And if not, let you go to the hospital. So this sounds crazy. So 24, 48 hours. I could barely lift my body, but I went to the gym. I think I swam, went to the sauna, and then Monday I think I went to the gym and just did some legs light. And then I was sitting straight up, and I went in there, and he was like, dude, what'd you do? And I said, I did nothing. Truthfully, I went and swam, I went to the sauna, I did some bicycling. He's like, man, I can't believe you're sitting so straight up after what you've been through, and and he goes, after he diagnosed me and all this shit, he said, it looks like what would have took an average man 30 days to get to where you're at now only took you a weekend. And he thinks because I never stopped working out, and my mindset was always continuously on getting healthy when I got injured. So I kind of snap into a mode. I didn't mean to get into that story, but that is just something, if you plan on working out, start thinking it's not just about getting the pump, but how to heal your body and take care of your body. So as much as I abused it with powerlifting and, all these different type of workouts I did, I also, when I left the gym, I wanted to recover. I wanted certain foods. I wanted protein, nutrition. I'm always trying to drink smoothies. I didn't beat the shit out of my body. I didn't drink, a lot. I'd have drinks here and there. Very seldom did I get smashed. I never did drugs. I wasn't taking tons of supplements or any of that stuff. I take Flintstones, vitamins, but I took care of my body. So it was kind of interesting because I call it reverse anorexia, reverse anorexiism. I don't know if that's what I called it. No matter when I looked in the mirror, no matter what I did, I always felt very thin. And my arms got up to like 19 and a quarter inch. My neck was like a 19 and a half inch neck, 54, 56 coat. And I just always felt small. So if you have this type of disease, I call it a disease, and I don't mean to, you may, and try to work on that. Don't beat yourself up, because there's really going to be always somebody bigger than you, obviously always someone stronger than you, unless you're absolutely massive. But don't abuse your body. Your body is like really magnificent, and it was constructed by your parents, obviously. And I'm very fortunate to have two parents that have amazing genetics. But I'm going to wrap this up soon. But regarding powerlifting and bodybuilding as something to combine, I think is actually a really good idea. Stick with a lot of free weights too. I see more and more people on equipment. Do equipment days maybe, and then do free weight days. I do a different workout every time I do workout. I kind of put a little bit of everything in there, just because I've been doing it so long, so I never try to do the same workout. But free weights, if you truly want size and balance, is where it's going to be, especially dumbbells. I tell people this all the time, and especially the young people. I see most guys now more on equipment because that's what's kind of more modern. And if you go into gyms, LA Fitness, 24 Hour Fitness, they have so much equipment. Also, if you look, a lot of the dumbbell or free weight area, it's decently sized. But usually they're not big enough, and they're very crowded. So if you do want to start doing that, you might want to start going at different times throughout the day to make sure you can get on the equipment you want to get onto, especially if you want to get onto, say, the dumbbell equipment and their benches, because that's usually extremely busy, especially now with women more than ever being in gyms. I see they use a lot of dumbbell work, especially when they're doing ass work, and obviously just different types of things. So I'm going to leave it at that. So yes, definitely kick it in the ass when you get to the gym. And thanks again for checking out my Rich CELENZA Show podcast. WTF are you talking about? And we're going to start doing some interviews with people that work out a lot. I'm going to be calling a lot of people out on their bullshit regarding workout. Also, obviously, keeping my mind open and taking advice regarding a lot of different types of workouts, because it's infinite how many different types of workouts there are. And it's infinite regarding all this stuff that's regarding just everything with fitness. It's always changing. It's evolving. It's an art form in itself. And I call creating your body or designing your body into what you want to design it into Michelangeloing. And I get into that actually in my Mastering Self-Confidence programs. All right. Well, take care, and I wish you the best.